This meeting is being recorded.
All right, good evening, class. My name is Jesiah Pierre, and I will be doing this oral presentation on human trafficking. Here. For an abstract, it is known to as human trafficking is a huge anomaly, according to the titles of new articles, an important fact of organic markets laws as old pressure development. And it is also shown for dealing with people produces benefits and creates a business opportunity for legal exploitation, and individuals become powerless against double dealing and business out continue to look for at least expensive work sources. And there's also different types of models that comes within to play here. In the one essential investigation, there's also the broad model that brings together pieces of knowledge about a specific complex issue provided by disciplines, interdisciplines, subdisciplines, and professional field, computer and stuff like that. But there's also the expensive model, which is able to work with disciplinary theories and their crucial concepts in the natural social sciences due to adaptability. The model is also ready to work with specific items like text, images and films, things that are centered the humanities and applied languages of use and tools specific to set uh, teaming disciplines to study them. In addition, the model is also capable of coordinating and disciplinary material, experience, and additional addressing internal questions about the human condition. For many people today, it's also that we're aware of human trafficking. It's a big thing in America, not just America but the world. A lot of people have dealt with it, and um, however, contrary wrongdoing has also grown significantly over the past few years. That is a well-known thing in by our society as people. And there's also a number of people, including people in youth, who is on wrongdoing inconsistently, who is really dealing with this for a consistently long period of time. And we all know that it's very a traditional, rational crime, and there's evidence like that takes place with borders in most of the countries, including the United States. One thing that's a big factor towards this is globalization, which is the feminization of neediness and cultureness of all the factors that contribute to a global wrongdoing of human trafficking, as are factors like political and financial and particular regions of the globe. Back and forth factors of the organic market drive it all together. For our literature review, we have our organizational leadership and computing applications are ways that can be held with aid of human trafficking. These disciplines elaborate on a constructive discipline towards the effect of traffickers. There are also a lot of situations that are happening around the world that deal with technology and actions of society and leadership, etc. Understanding these disciplines will also benefit a lot of people in multiple ways. It'll help people use them um, to stop human trafficking and can help better a society for future generations. We also know that these leadership traits and characteristics is going to be a solution for global issues in today's time. And they're also like due to track every victim's moment, and technology's role in human trafficking becomes more increasingly upsetting. We also know that this might even involve the use of GPS technology. However, human trafficking also implanted GPS tracker chips into the bodies of their victims. And there's also a study of the role in a global economy is formalized by and supported by the interdisciplinary minor and organizational leadership. To foster an interest, it is appreciation for beneficial application of this curriculum combines challenges course and options with relevant interdisciplinary effectives and in the technology. There's also the people who understand their leaderships with the qualities of to transform society. And there's numerous issues can be resolved if individuals take the time to really cooperate their characteristics in their daily lives and really consider like their actions, what they do to that has towards an effect in the results of human trafficking. Well, when we're talking about organizational leadership, we also know that states of victims of trafficking and violence, what Galileo talks about, Protection Act passed by the Department issue of Trafficking in Persons reports, which also describes the nature of degree and extreme types of trafficking with people and examine administrative efforts made by around the world to combat such in dealing with the U.S. law. It also when in this essay, it also talks about opportunities of risk made available by the tip reports, and tracking their evolution over the last 10 years and taking account how they affect their state behavior. And this paper was also written in for also for mainly for human trafficking, but it mostly because there's something fundamentally wrong with the existing situation. Like they're really in detailed about, okay, like we also know that this awareness like of human trafficking, but they want to get more in detail of like every detail for people to understand what's the real issue and what human trafficking, like the effect of it. And that's with organizational leadership. And for the one active group was the Active Communities Against Trafficking, the ACT group, or you could say the ACT. And this was a currently significant project, uh, which gave these groups a lot of resources to help in identify human trafficking. And they also work with to understand how it affects local communities, your local community, wherever you are around the world, and learn how to help them stop from happening again. Um, we also know by establishing connections with professionals, communities, leaders, and locals authorities, as well as asking about the questions children who have vanished, they can accomplish this because it is in with the community. We believe, that a community can stop human trafficking. The problem with human trafficking is more prominent as the ACT Act project spans across the nations. Bringing together a diverse group of individuals to assist a group of individuals to fight against uh, human trafficking manifestations. And despite what all the articles and all the things we said, Peter Kay gives a really good input and really good statistic about the lately stuff that's been happening with human trafficking. And despite all the majority of his victims have little access to healthcare, Peter Kay or Peters recounts how roughly 30% of victims would end up eventually end up in healthcare system in a quest for treatment, illness, or injuries sustained while being kept captive. Tragically, the majorities of these individuals will be recognized as trafficking victims and won't receive appropriate support to break their free and regenerate into society. Emergency nurses are generally the first medical workers to treat patients because of this violent nature of their employment. This is due to frequent this is due to frequent life-threatening injuries sustained by these individuals to prevent them from suffering additional harm. And our second discipline will be computer applications. By employing the examples from both the international labor and um, human organ trafficking industries, Fraser gives a really good input and explains the goal of this study was to examine the link between human trafficking brokers and trafficking victims. We also know that this review aims to increase the knowledge and increase the knowledge of current trafficking business networkers in the emerging regions. And it was shown that 17 cases are introduced as models of the trafficking business climate, are told from their perspectives of both dealing with casualties and the representatives who have been benefited from them in this ethnographic review that covered living among dealing with casualties in 21 agricultural nations. Technology is employed for a number of objectives in the information society and network society. And one thing that Azuka gives a good input of if they really talk about how it contributes significantly to society's shift towards a crime of trafficking. It also defeats the advantage of mankind, the examine of mankind, and the examination also looks how innovation, including cyber crimes, innovation with receptions, and wrongdoing. They use a variety of techniques such as technical analysis, library, research, and examination of writing and measurements. And the results of this for of all the categories. Um, However, there are other social issues such as privacy and individuals that demand attention. And with Chattel and Houston Kalnick. They really talk about how one of the NGOs provide to communities is an advocacy in which people band together in support of common cause such as social justice and social transformation, or a resource for a provision. And they also talk about how advocates point out that by glamoring sex work and sensationalization international depictions of trafficking, media portrayals of human trafficking also help establish and maintain preconceptions. And as we go on to our methods of interdisciplinary research, this slide really talks about how all trafficking initiates our centers are protecting victims. Journalists, photographers, and media outlets must protect them um, both potential and current victims by changing their picture, personal story, and identify them as the third whale parties. And it also talks about how the public support and participation in the battle against human trafficking are greatly influenced by the media. The media has a big influence today. We all know that from our social media and our phones, and our laptops, and our TVs, like social media basically controls our world. And that is something that the media has a big role in when it comes to human trafficking, is how we portray ourselves and how we portray our lives and our daily habits and everything. And we also know we have a global fight with human trafficking is a top priority as American days and United States of America's policy. And the U.S. employs a government approach to hold traffickers accountable, to protect victims, and put an end to this crime. The global campaign against human trafficking is a major priority for the U.S. And fighting it requires a strategy. Everything requires a strategy. And this refers to the involvement and coordination of numerous government organizations with a variety of duties, including public awareness and education, trade policy and promotion, and international development and programs that customize ways for immigration intelligence and gathering for victims outreach and to bring service to each other. Um, with our conclusion, we also know from like the previous slides and from all studies, it is like well known that human trafficking is one of the oldest, heinous crimes that we have in today's. And however, it is also a consummary crime that has grown rapidly over the past few decades. And millions of individuals, including children, fall to prey to this crime each year. And children have really been in a vulnerable position because they can't really protect themselves compared to an adult, which that is obvious. And there's evidence that people traffickers occurs within boundaries of most countries, including the United States, despite the fact that it's typically international crime. Furthermore, there is no more discrimination against victims of this crime based on their color, ethnicity, age, or gender. Supply and demand push and pull variables affected in efforts to force states to abide and measure to stop the sale of investment. We also know that, like, for them to stop this enslavement, the United States must has experienced a military might with it. And to make the world a better place, we also know that society must take leadership in their actions. And it doesn't have to start with just the government. It can also start with how we move on as people and citizens of America and citizens in other countries as well. Like stuff that we can do in our daily lives habits could really make a big difference in how human trafficking is being dealt with. And that's all I have my references, and that is all I have for you guys today. Thank you for your time.